Okay, so let's jump right in. We're all using these amazing AI tools pretty much every day now. But have you ever actually stopped to ask yourself a super simple but, really critical question? When you type something into that chat window or upload a file, where does your data really go?
We all kind of think this, right? That a chat with an AI is like this private little bubble, almost like you're just talking to yourself. Well, this slide just puts it out there plain and simple. That assumption is totally wrong. And honestly, figuring out why it's wrong is the absolute first step to keeping your sensitive info safe.
So let's follow the breadcrumbs. Let's trace that risky journey your data takes. It really boils down to two main ways your information gets exposed. And these aren't just hypotheticals. This is happening all the time, in all sorts of businesses.
Now, this is what's so interesting. Check out the contrast on this slide. You've got two totally different actions that, believe it or not, lead to the exact same problem. On one hand, you've got something really formal, uploading a confidential file like a clinical trial summary, and on the other, something that feels completely casual, right? Just typing in internal price into the chat for some quick advice. The actions feel like they're worlds apart, but under the hood, they both kick off the same risky process.
And this is where it gets really dangerous, especially with that chat window. I mean, let's be honest, we type stuff in there we would never put in an official email or document. We treat it like it's a scratch pad. It just feels so informal, so temporary. But here's the reality check. It's none of those things. Every single word is being processed, and it's being stored on a server, just like that formal file you uploaded. So this is the crucial part, and it's probably not what you think. The risk isn't that your company's secret recipe is suddenly going to pop up in some random person's chat. That's a common fear, but the tech doesn't really work that way. The real risks are, well, a lot more boring, and because of that, they're way more dangerous. It's things like your data just sitting on their servers for months, maybe even years. It's the fact that it can be used to train their next AI model, unless you've gone in and specifically turned that off. And get this, their own staff can access it for safety reviews, which could cause huge problems, regulatory or contractual breaches for your company.
And if all that wasn't enough to think about, there's a whole other layer of risk most of us don't even consider: jurisdiction. Yeah, depending on the platform you're using, that sensitive file you uploaded could now be physically stored on a server in a different country, which means it's subject to their national intelligence laws. This isn't some wild theory, it's written right into some of their policies.
Okay, so enough with the theory. Let's look at the cold, hard facts. We actually dug into the privacy policies of the big AI platforms to see exactly what they're promising you and, more importantly, what they're not.
And wow, this table really lays it all out. Just zero in on that training use column for a second. For most of the tools you're using for free, the default is on. They are absolutely using your data to train their models. Now look at retention, it is all over the place. From 30 days with ChatGPT to a wild 3 years for Gemini. But do you see the pattern here? The key difference is always consumer versus enterprise. Enterprise tiers are built for business, and they almost always exclude your data from training by default.
And then we have to talk about DeepSeek. It's definitely an outlier, but a really important one. I mean, look at this. There is no option to opt out of training. None. They can keep your data indefinitely. And it's all stored in China, subject to their national laws. Let me just be crystal clear. For any kind of professional, confidential work, this combination is an absolute deal breaker.
So if you remember one thing from all this data, make it this: the massive night and day difference between consumer and enterprise accounts. Enterprise versions, things like M365 Copilot or ChatGPT Enterprise, they are built specifically for business. And that means your data is kept out of their training by default, and you get the serious privacy controls you actually need to work safely.
And all of this, it brings us to the real heart of the matter. Because as much as we've talked about technology and all these policies, the biggest risk isn't the AI at all. It's us, it's people, it's the gap in our own governance, what we do, and what our organizations just fail to teach us.
So let's make this personal for a second. Let's do a quick gut check for your own organization. First question, do your people really know what counts as sensitive data when they're using AI? Next up, do they know for sure which AI tools are okay to use for work and which ones are totally off limits?
Do you have a clear written down policy about data that's been specifically updated to include these new AI tools?
And last one, is anyone talking about that casual chat window behavior we mentioned? Is there any training that makes it clear it is not a private notepad? Now, if the answer to any of these questions is no, or even just I'm not sure, well, you've just found your governance gap. That's the real risk.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem, we've diagnosed the real cause,
Now for the most important part, how to fix it. Here's a super simple playbook to protect your data for you as an individual and for your organization that you can literally start using today.
Okay, if you're watching this for yourself, here are 3 things to do right now. First, go into the settings of every single AI tool you use and find that little toggle to opt out of training. Turn it off. Second, just draw a hard line in the sand. Never ever use free consumer-grade tools for sensitive work stuff. And third, based on what we just saw, just stay away from a platform like DeepSeek for professional use. Period.
And for organizations, the playbook is just as clear. Number 1, you have to build a formal policy. Define what sensitive data means and make an official list of approved AI tools. Number 2, you've got to invest in and deploy enterprise-grade tools. Pay for the versions that protect your data from the get-go. And number 3, and this one is probably the most important, train your people. Don't just send out a memo with a bunch of rules, explain the why behind it all. That is the only way you're going to actually change how people behave. Which really brings us to this one crucial idea. The AI tools themselves? They're not the bad guys here. They aren't inherently unsafe. The danger happens when we use consumer-grade tools for professional work without having a clue what's happening behind the scenes. Like the slide says, it's a failure of governance and awareness, not a failure of the technology.
So when you boil it all down, the real risk isn't artificial intelligence, it's our own very human unawareness. But here's the thing, awareness is a choice. You now have the information you need to make a better one. The only question left is, what are you going to do with it?